Oh, right, guys. Today we're going to be reacting to how Russians really live on this section in 2025. Honest assessment. We reacted to some of her videos before. She's very good in what she does. Make sure you guys subscribe to my channel. Also, for my second channel, it's gonna be in the comment section below. Go subscribe and just show some support. Let's get to that 4,000 watch time, and that way we can monetize that channel. It's a little bit hard. But if you guys can do that, just let it play in the background. I'm gonna really appreciate it. Let's jump in.
I want to show you what life is like here in Russia under sanctions in 2025, because everything here changes all the time. It's really hard to keep up. We want to share with you how life under sanctions affects average people like you and I in their everyday life. So let's start with essentials.
Okay. Sochi.
By now, we all know exactly why sanctions were introduced on Russia. In fact, there's been over 24,000 sanctions introduced on Russia from over 50 countries, meaning it has more sanctions than the next 6 most sanctioned countries combined.
So, by the way, we're filming this video in Sochi, which is a city in the south of Russia on the Black Sea coast. But on this trip in particular, we've been in Moscow, St. Petersburg, Sochi, and then also over in Siberia in Kemerovo, Novosibirsk, Prokopyevsk, and the small town of Taiga. So what we're showing in this video isn't exclusive to Sochi. We know this is the situation throughout Russia. And on that note, let's head inside Magnit Extra, this massive supermarket here on the edge of town.
Food shortage. Oh my goodness.
Magnit is a typical supermarket
Shortages. Oh my
Russia.
god.
So let's take a look at what's on the shelves today and what has changed.
Nothing has changed. Wow. 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 Nothing has changed. Look at that.
One thing that I always find quite funny, and you see a lot online at the moment, is this idea that the shelves in Russia are all empty and that there's no products left. For someone who's travelled to Russia a lot over the past 11 years, I can say that's not the case, and it's not the case now under sanctions either. And to be honest, walking around supermarkets, there's just as many international products as there were before. Even products that have officially left the country, you can still find in many places, and that includes here in Sochi as well as over in Siberia. Some of these products have just changed their names or rewritten the labels into Cyrillic. For example, Nescafe, Tresemme, Persil or Dove, and other brands haven't changed anything at all.
That's funny.
In fact, food imports and exports to and from Russia were one of the main things that haven't been sanctioned as of 2025, and any brands that did leave were unilateral decisions.
As you can see,
Yeah,
the
those
shelves are not empty. There's probably too much.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy? Everything is nice and organized and big. There's a lot of food here. A lot of food. And I'm guessing the prices are very low.
Stuff, more than you need, same as everywhere. There was a massive deal about one specific brand leaving Russia, which is Coca-Cola. But basically what happened, pretty much the next day, Russian company got the rights to the factories where Coca-Cola was made and the recipe. And the same thing is being made just under a different label. So now, Coca-Cola is Dobry.
Yeah, and they messed up. See? And they messed up big time. Instead of just playing, now they lost the market. They lost the market. Dummies.
Prices for essentials have increased over the past few years, with inflation remaining high. But as of now, the selection of products in the shops and the amount of people shopping doesn't seem to have changed a great deal.
Traveling to Russia has changed a lot over the last few years, there is no doubt about it. There's a lot to think about and consider, everything from visa process, how to get inside the country, and actually what to expect when you're there. Which is exactly why Matt and I spent weeks collating all of our knowledge about how to travel to and within Russia into a survival kit for you to download. It's full of practical advice and information.
Еще.
Mm.
Да, все, да?
Да.
Да. 1500.
Oh my gosh, it's good, huh? It looks very good.
Talking of food, there's been some rebranding. Inside the supermarket we were in, there is actually a Burger King, which is one of the only major fast food chains to have remained in Russia, alongside Papa John's Pizza and Subway. Of the others,
Interesting.
KFC officially exited the Russian market. Its name changed to Rostix, and famously McDonald's changed to Вкусно и точка.
That's funny. That's the hotels, right?
Many international shops have also left, for example, Zara and Lego. But others have, despite officially leaving, seemed to change their names and kept selling the same products.
Yeah, that's what you need to do.
And others haven't left whatsoever.
And that's a smart move. See, that was a smart move. You don't know what the hell is going on for you to make a decision like that. If we were talking about like fascism and stuff like that, like the guy with his mustache was in power, well, you can make an argument, but that has nothing to do with this. It's two countries having a differences of situation. They just wanted to go back and forth. But people just made the decision and they just move.
Okay, let's talk about money. And there's nowhere else we can start really but with SWIFT. In 2022, Russia was cut off of the SWIFT payment system, which is the payment system that facilitates transactions all over the world. So for example, if we were in Thailand and I tap my British card, the payment would go through to my British bank via SWIFT and then come back to Thailand to say to the operator that, yep, the payment's gone through. That means that Russian cards, with almost immediate effect, stopped working anywhere across the world, certainly if they had Visa or MasterCard. However, within Russia, nothing really changed. So people would still earn money onto their Russian accounts, and internally within Russia, even if they had a Visa or a MasterCard, as well as perhaps a Mir card or a Union Pay card, they would tap it here in Russia and it will still work. Quite honestly, for people that live within Russia, they earn money from a Russian company, their wages go into their Russian account and they spend it in Russia. The situation hasn't changed that much. I guess the one caveat to that is that prices have gone up over the past few years. However, inflation's also really high within the country.
Yeah, but this is, inflation, how can I say this? Inflation has to do with the fact that the United States has printed a lot of money, right? Now, this is crazy. Look at this inflation, right? And sadly, inflation is something natural from the economy, so things are going to go up. Things are simply going to go up.
And it's fluctuated over the past few years. But with that, wages have gone up too. Quite honestly, I think whether prices have gone up quicker than wages, we can't really tell you. And also Russia's so big, I think it's so regionally dependent. Actually, early on in 2022 and maybe even into 2023, it was still possible for Russians that have certain accounts to use their cards abroad, because many opened Union Pay accounts, which is the Chinese payment system and effectively their version of Visa or MasterCard, or also some of the Russian Mir cards, which is their version of Visa or MasterCard, did work in certain countries, for example, Turkey, Armenia, and some of the Central Asian countries. However, I think all of these loopholes are now closed with the onset of secondary sanctions being threatened against these countries.
Damn, man.
So, for example, Turkey
Damn.
shouldn't be accepting the Mir card because that violates sanctions. So
Yo,
they
that's
just
so
cut it off
sad,
from
man.
their-
That is so sad. That is so sad. It's just such a shame.
banking system completely. So nowadays, for Russians that are traveling abroad for any reason, there's a few methods that you can get money out of the country. The first one is the most obvious, which is the good old-fashioned cash method. A lot of Russians will bring wads of cash now when they're going abroad, especially for an extended period of time. The other method is quite shady. It's by using crypto.
Yep.
But
Yeah, let's
you
go.
can't use any of the mainstream crypto exchanges. You can only, from Russia, use certain slightly dodgy ones, to say the least, in order to get your money onto the crypto market, and then you would draw it out the other side through maybe one of the major exchanges. And the third method is something called Corona Pay, which is basically the Russian version of Western Union or MoneyGram. And this is actually what we used to use up until June 2024. Because I think now, perhaps all over the world, but certainly from North America and Europe, this is now banned. So before we would send money from our British cards onto Corona Pay, and then we would put in the name of the person who would collect it on the other side. So for example, Julia's name or my name, and then you go to a bank here in Russia and you could get the cash out and then put it onto your Russian card. So it was quite a simple method, just like Western Union. And that's what we say, that things change all the time here. And I think if you're living here and you are traveling abroad a lot, or conversely, if you're living in Russia and you're earning money from abroad, so effectively anyone that needs to get money in or out of the country, you really have to keep your ear to the ground all the time because things are just changing non-stop.
Wow.
So to sum up, I think if you're inside of Russia, you're earning money in Russia, you travel in Russia and you stay within the country, life perhaps in terms of finances and money hasn't changed all too much. It's when you try and leave Russia or you need to transfer money in or out of the country
that's where the problem comes.
On that note, many people seem to think that there are no international flights to and from Russia. It's not really the case. The flights between Russia and Europe, North America, Japan and South Korea have been stopped, but you can still fly internationally to many countries like Turkey, China, the UAE, Armenia, Georgia. Turkey seems to be the hub right now. The flights are literally non-stop from Istanbul to all over Russia, especially if people are coming from the West. It seems like Turkey is the main point of transfer. With that, although you can still fly, it became a little more complicated, as Matt mentioned, with cards. And if you're going to North America or all the places
Dang, that's a pain, bro. That's a pain. That's a pain, man. It's huge pain. I hope things change in the future, but because this is a pain. Pain.
Different routes to get there, and it can become complicated and quite pricey. So the internal tourism in Russia is going for a boom. We're currently in Sochi, and I was talking to my mom because she lives here, and she said it used to be quite seasonal, so people would come here to ski in the winter and enjoy the sun and the sea in the summer. Now it seems like the season is just all year round. It doesn't stop. The weather is miserable now, but there are still so many tourists and so many people around. Also, as a Russian, you can still get Schengen visas. Certain countries stopped giving them out, but it's still possible to get a tourist visa if you do want to go to Spain, for example, or Italy. Another important aspect of life, which is important nowadays, I guess, and the situation that keeps changing all the time, social media. So in 2022, the Russian government labeled Facebook and Instagram extremist organizations, and the access to them has been banned. Facebook wasn't really that popular in Russia, but Instagram was, and in reality people are still using it just through VPN. The same with Twitter or X. It is banned, but people are still using it through VPN. Interestingly, Chinese social media TikTok is currently restricted in Russia as well.
Wow.
And the big changes are with YouTube. So Google and the Russian government has been locked in disagreement for a while now. The Russian government sued Google for crazy amount of money. So now YouTube is not banned, but the speed has been severely repressed. So no one really knows what is going to happen. The government keeps saying that they won't ban YouTube, but anything can happen. Russian creators that have been using those platforms to create their content and get paid currently can't do that because those companies are based overseas outside of Russia, and the payment would have to come through SWIFT payment system. As Matt mentioned, it's currently not possible, so people have been opening bank accounts in friendly countries like Kazakhstan and receiving their money through there. Or alternatively, some people have been moving to VK videos or RuTube, which is a Russian version of YouTube. For many people there is
What was that again?
Or RuTube, which is a Russian version of
RuTube?
Some people have been moving to VK videos or
VK
RuTube,
video,
which is a Russian version of YouTube. For many people there
Can
is
you make money there? Can you make money there? Let me know in the comment section below.
Need to stay on YouTube because they're not creating content only for Russians. There are people all over the world who speak Russian and would like to see content from all those people. So currently they're looking at ways on how to keep up with the monetization and the current situation.
I'm gonna leave it there, and the rest you guys can go to the content creator in the description down below. That is so sad. That is extremely sad. I hope things get better. I love their channel. Their channels are very good. Sanctions, listen, Russia has managed to just get out of the sanctions very well. I've seen that their technologies has improved a lot. It seems like this has been a great opportunity for Russia to improve the the lifestyle and get much better. They will figure it out. We'll get. I think a lot of these companies, they will get into a position where they can now get opportunities, right? When this thing with Ukraine gets resolved, everything will be much better. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, guys. I will see you in the next one.